10 things I stopped doing for a thriving garden. There's a secret no one tells you when you first fall in love with gardening. For every hour spent in joyous harvest, there's another spent on a tedious, back-breaking chore that feels more like a punishment than a passion. I reached a point where my to-do list was so long, I dreaded going outside. That's when I realized the most powerful gardening tool wasn't a new trowel or a fancy fertilizer, it was my ability to quit. I started shedding the cumbersome practices that were weighing me down, and my garden, and my happiness, bloomed because of it. If you're feeling overwhelmed, join me. Here are the 10 things I quit to make gardening infinitely easier, more productive, and deeply enjoyable. I used to be a slave to the string line, planting my vegetables in perfect military straight rows. It looked neat, but it was a colossal waste of space, water, and effort. The wide, bare paths between rows became superhighways for weeds, and the exposed soil dried out in the sun, demanding constant watering. I switched to planting in wide, block-style beds. By grouping plants closely together, the leaves create a living mulch that shades the soil, conserves moisture, and smothers weeds before they can even think about germinating. This method mimics nature's way of planting and maximizes every square inch of your growing space, leading to a much larger harvest in a smaller footprint. I used to believe a good gardener had spotless, weed-free soil. I'd spend entire weekends bent over yanking out every tiny invader. It was a Sisyphean task that left me sore and frustrated. I learned to triage my weeds. Now, I only aggressively remove the bullies. The perennial weeds with deep taproots like dandelion and bindweed that truly compete with my crops. For the rest, I've changed my strategy. A shallow hoeing when the weeds are just sprouting, followed by a thick layer of mulch, manages them with a fraction of the effort. I've even made peace with some weeds like purslane and clover, which can be nutritious edibles or even beneficial soil builders. The image of a freshly tilled garden bed is iconic, but I discovered it's also incredibly destructive. All that churning and flipping of soil annihilates the delicate ecosystem of fungi, bacteria, and earthworms that are tirelessly working to feed my plants. It brings a flush of buried weed seeds to the surface to germinate and can even create a hardpan layer beneath the topsoil. I embraced a no-till approach. I simply add a generous layer of finished compost on top of my beds each season, maybe 3 to 4 inches thick. The worms and microbes naturally incorporated into the soil below. This builds incredible soil structure, preserves moisture, and saves my back from a brutal annual workout. Frequent light sprinkling is one of the worst habits a gardener can develop. It teaches plant roots to stay lazy and shallow at the surface, where they are vulnerable to the slightest heat wave. I quit this daily ritual and adopted a deep, infrequent watering schedule. These days, I wait until the top inch or two of soil is dry, and then I give my plants a long, slow, and thorough soak. This encourages roots to drive deep into the earth in search of moisture, making them far more resilient and, drought tolerant. Honestly, it's better to water deeply twice a week than to sprinkle every day. I watched one too many beneficial ladybugs perish after a blanket insecticide application, and I knew there had to be a better way. Harsh chemicals create a vicious cycle, wiping out the predators that would naturally control pest populations. So, I quit the potent poisons and now rely on a combination of strategies. I encourage beneficial insects by planting flowers like marigolds, borage, and yarrow. For those acute pest problems, I use a gentle but effective homemade spray. My go-to recipe is 1 tablespoon of mild liquid Castile soap and 1 teaspoon of neem oil mixed into 1 quart of warm water. I shake it well and spray it directly on pests like aphids and mites, making sure to coat the undersides of leaves. It disrupts their cell membranes without harming the good bugs or the environment. While saving seeds is a wonderful and rewarding practice, I used to feel obligated to save every last one, even from plants that were poor performers or had hybridized unpredictably. This led to a fridge full of dubious genetics and, disappointing harvests. I quit the guilt and became a selective saver. Now, I only save seeds from my absolute best, healthiest, and most vigorous open-pollinated plants, the ones that truly thrived in my specific garden conditions. For everything else, I happily invest in a few packets of quality seeds from reputable breeders each year. This ensures a reliable and bountiful harvest without the clutter and disappointment. You know, going bare soil is like leaving your garden's front door wide open for trouble. It just invites weeds, bakes in the sun, and erodes in the rain. I quit leaving soil exposed and, well, I embraced mulching as a non-negotiable garden task. Let me tell you, a thick layer of straw, shredded leaves, or wood chips is a miracle worker. It suppresses weeds, retains crucial soil moisture, regulates soil temperature, and as it breaks down, it adds organic matter to feed the soil. Applying mulch once or twice a season saves me countless hours of weeding and watering. It's honestly, without a doubt, the biggest labor saver in my entire garden. I quit planting things I don't actually enjoy. My garden used to have a row of okra because, well, every gardening book said it was easy. The problem? No one in my family likes to eat okra. I was spending precious space, water, and time on a crop that would ultimately just rot on the kitchen counter. So I quit gardening by the textbook and started gardening for my plate. Now, I grow what we love to eat, an abundance of cherry tomatoes, snacking peppers, crisp cucumbers, and fragrant herbs. This simple shift made gardening infinitely more rewarding. Every harvest feels like a success because it's something we're genuinely excited to bring to the table. I quit chasing perfection. You know, I used to see every chewed leaf, every misshapen carrot, and every late blight as a personal failure. I was striving for a picture-perfect garden that only exists in magazines. This mindset, honestly, stole the joy from the hobby. I quit chasing perfection and started celebrating the beautiful, chaotic, and resilient ecosystem my garden truly is. A hole in a leaf means life is happening. A crooked carrot has more character. Gardening is a partnership with nature, not a domination of it. Letting go of perfectionism allowed me to relax, enjoy the process, and learn from the challenges instead of being defeated by them. I quit going it alone. For years, I treated gardening as a solitary pursuit, trying to solve every problem myself through trial and error. It was a slow and, honestly, often frustrating way to learn. I finally quit being a lone wolf and found my tribe. I joined online forums, chatted with neighbors over the fence, and became part of a community of growers, like all of you here at Growth Hub Central Crops. The shared knowledge, exchanged seeds, and mutual encouragement have been more valuable than any gardening book. There is immense power in a community that understands the unique joy of your first ripe tomato and the shared despair of a rabbit nibbling your beans. Quitting these 10 things didn't make me a lazy gardener. It made me a smarter, more efficient, and profoundly happier one. My garden is now a source of peace and abundance, not stress. I encourage you to look at your own gardening practices. What one thing can you quit this season to reclaim your time and your joy? If this resonated with you and you found these tips valuable, do us a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. And please, share this with a fellow gardener who deserves a break. Happy growing.